What's going on, YouTube? This is J-Man2589. I'm going to show you a cool little trick. On this Savage Mark II, I've actually performed a trigger job on it. This does not have the AccuTrigger, but it pretty much gives you the same results. Cock it, it has been safety checked. Let me just show you. I know you guys are weird. You can see the red, there's nothing in the magazine. Look how easy this trigger pull is. Oh, isn't that sweet? I know you can find it on the web, but I wanted to show you a how-to. Even better. Let me get all my tools out, and then I'll check back with you. Okay, start by flipping the gun over. Take your magazine out. Get your handy-dandy 4mm, you can see right there, 4mm Allen head. You see that? These two bolts are what holds the actual receiver onto the synthetic stock. So let me do that real quick. Alright, we've loosened these bolts. Let's take them off. Now the synthetic stock will pull right off the receiver. So just kind of wiggle, whoop, there it goes. Let's lay this down. Okay, so basically we are wanting to take this whole trigger group off, and what we are doing is we're actually going to shim up under here, so in theory this sear will just make a little less contact with the bolt, making the trigger pull I guess less. Not necessarily the poundage, but the travel is what I think. We will also be replacing this little spring in here with one actually from a pin spring, from like a Bic pen, a ballpoint pen. Any spring you can find that is not very tense. So we will start by taking this trigger spring, or the safety spring, off. Now get a good hold of it, because it will spring out of your hands if you don't watch out. We'll set that aside. So now, with the safety disengaged, we'll get our Allen wrenches again, and we will undo these bolts. We will only have to do this one right here and this one back here. Okay, now I've loosened these screws. We can go ahead and take it out. Pay careful attention to how much tension that was on it when you pulled them off, so you know how tight to get them back on. A lot of people are saying that theirs were extremely tight. Mine were not. It was pretty easy. So now we just got to lift up on this trigger assembly and pull straight out. I only have one hand, so unfortunately I'm going to have to do it and then show you. Okay, I've already got it out, but just to show you, you lift up a tad and kind of wiggle it, and you'll see when the sear starts clearing that cavity, you'll be able to pull it out. And that's pretty much it. So now you have the entire trigger group out and free. So what's left, let's flip it over, is to free the trigger, the actual trigger. We're going to take this pin out, and that will require needle nose, maybe a small set of screwdrivers, flathead screwdrivers. Whatever you've got will do great. If you get out your needle nose, it'll be easier when you come to put it back on, because you'll be able to just snip and it'll clip it right on. So let me do that. Alright, I've released the clip. Now we just gotta push this pin, pull it out, and the trigger should be free. Here's the trigger. Let's set this spring aside. Okay, now when it's at this point, you can see that it still is its natural color. What I did is I went ahead and got some nice metal spray paint and just sprayed it on there real quick, just because I don't know. It's a little bit different from everybody else's. You can do it, you cannot do it, whatever. What I did is I took a piece of shim stock around 11 thousandths of an inch. If you don't know what 11 thousandths of an inch is, I really don't know how to tell you. I use dial calipers, micrometers, anything you can get to measure thousandths of an inch, or a set of feeler gauges that has already the number printed on it is what I used. So I just took 10 snips, some electrician sneers, and cut it out in a circle, drilled a hole in the middle, and then cut it out. So what this does is I put it on this pin that came out of the trigger. You put it on there so that when your trigger is in the trigger group, from side to side, it won't wobble. Because if you take your Mark II and wobble your trigger from side to side, it will move. So that shim is basically for that. And a lot of people just stopped here. Just putting that shim in between the housing and the trigger actually was enough accuracy and basically what people felt comfortable with. So they kept their factory trigger pull and just did that modification. They said it helped their groupings immensely just by doing that. Well, I didn't. I went a little bit further. So hopefully by watching you will too. Here is the shim. This is actually 25 thou shim, 25 thousandths of an inch. Same thing, I took it from a set of feeler gauges, cut it out, and this will be the shim that will sit up here. Let me see if I can get it. And then what your trigger group will actually sit on. There's your bolt that we did. So that, all this does is shim it up so the sear is not engaging as much in here on the bolt, thus giving you a lighter trigger pull. I'd actually say it was for the travel. I think the spring it would be for the actual pound pull, but the travel is significantly decreased. Over travel is virtually eliminated, and the trigger pound pull is just ridiculously easy. Let me get out the stock spring real quick so you get a reference. Okay. Here is the little tiny stock spring. Hopefully it'll focus on it. No, it won't. There it goes. So there's a little tiny stock spring. You can see that it looks pretty tense. This one is extremely loose. You just take it. Basically all I did was line it up length. Made it the same length, a little bit less. Trimmed it out of a pen, and if you notice the diameter, I don't think it'll stand up, it's too small of a diameter. The diameter on the Bic pin spring is much larger. So you will, on your trigger where it sits in, have to drill it out. And if you can see, there's a small ridge in there, because what I did, why my spring is a little bit shorter, is I didn't drill my hole all the way down. So if for some reason they screwed my gun up, I could just set the stock spring back down in there and I'd be good to go. So since I only drilled halfway down in this hole to open it up larger, I cut my spring shorter because obviously it rests on that lip in order to go back to the stock spring if I ever needed to. I did not get the drill bit size. Let me put this down, I'll do one more cut, and I'll come back with the exact drill size. Okay, the drill bit I used was 11/64. Of course, it's all going to matter on the diameter of your spring. You don't need to get an exact measurement, just hold it up to the drill bit and say, yeah, that looks close, and just go to town. Make sure you drill straight, all that stuff. It's common sense, but you wouldn't believe some of the people we got out here. So, you've cut your shim out, hopefully, your 25 thou shim. You've got it sitting here. You've got your 11 thou shim cut out with a hole drilled in it. It's kind of hard to see. I got a stainless steel workbench. And now, after you've drilled this halfway out or all the way out, whatever, if you don't care, we can go ahead and start putting it back together. It's extremely, extremely easy. You don't have to do anything else with this trigger group. So, put your 25 thou shim back up here. And you want it pretty much as close to this bolt hole as possible. Because when you start to put this trigger group back on there, it will kind of bend. If it would focus, see how it just kind of doesn't meet over the edge? You're going to want it as close to that, or else this tab right here will bend down, which probably not a big deal, but of course you don't want to go bending anything that's not supposed to be bent. So just be careful of that. Let me grab my shim. And if I can do this one-handed, you guys can do this two-handed. Actually, there is no way I'm going to be able to do it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut again. Alright, now that you've got your shim in place and your spring in the hole you drilled out, it's time to reattach it to the trigger group. You want to make sure your safety knob is facing up. That'll give you the correct orientation. Make sure the sear, this little knob, is facing forward. So that's how you know which way your trigger should be facing. Now, when you put this in, it's going to slide up. You're going to put it up in front. Make sure your safety right here is in this position back. It's going to slide up in there, and your holes won't line up, but then you'll bring it back up to where that spring is compressed against the sear and your holes lined up. So I know it's going to be kind of difficult without me actually being able to show you. I know. But just keep trying, and you'll get it. Slide it up. Your spring will be kind of funny. You can just reach your fingernail in there and get it compressed good. Line it up, and it should be compressed, and everything should line up. Then you'll put your pin in. Make sure your shim right here doesn't move in the process. Alright, so the spring right here is now fully seated against the sear, and if you pull down, you'll see that it spring compresses and it releases. Your bolt will be sitting here, and when you push down, the sear will fall and allow the bolt to go forward, striking obviously the rim and setting the gun off. And you'll notice how the safety works, because when you're in this position, the actual little knob goes out of the way and allows that, and when you're in this position, it literally just blocks it off, so that obviously it will not move. So now that's in. Hopefully you didn't have too much trouble. I did it, a couple seconds, and again I've done this one other time. Now all you gotta do is put this spring back in, and I find the easiest way to do that is there is a groove. I was going to try and show you. There is a groove that my fingernail will catch. You'll see that groove. Now this I guess I'm drawing a blank. This washer will slide in that groove. So you can kind of push the pin down until that groove is flush with the body of the trigger group. You can kind of feel it. Just get a feeling for it. Okay. Then take your needle nose. Dang it. Pinch it on. Snap. There it goes. Now make sure it's fully pressed down. So when you flip it back over, these are raised up right there. Get this handy dandy spring. back for your safety. Set it over that one. Compress the spring so it rests. Press it back down till it sits right. So now, as you can see, that's how the safety works. And it is extremely strong. I have heard of people taking and bending this spring a little bit so their safety's not as strong. But once you put the gun back together, I didn't think it was all that bad, so I figured I'd just leave it there. So now that you've got this trigger group assembly back together, I guess you can flip it off safe and see it in action. You can see it working there. So now all we have to do is attach this back to the receiver, and you can see my 25 thou shims there, and the same motion that you used before. You'll put it up at an angle, wedge it up under there. I'm hoping I can do it one-handed. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. It's going, it's going. There she goes. Now she's in position. Put it back down. I will have to slide it forward a tad till the bolt holes line up. Okay, now it's in position. Now you can see my little 25 thou shims I got under there. Now as I start to compress it and tighten it, it will compress those shims down, but don't worry, it should be alright. Where's my bolts? Remember, the little one in diameter, the little one that barely has this rim, will go in the back. You can use some Loctite if you want. Some people do, some people don't. I didn't, because it didn't have Loctite on it when I pulled it off. That's generally my rule. Hopefully that's lined up. Yeah, it's just not starting. Okay. Now, all you gotta do is tighten her up. Now, remember how much torque it took to take it off. Put it right back on. I'll check back with you. Only got one hand. Alright, I've got these bolts back tight. My general rule, and the rule at the machine shop we worked at, is basically a quarter turn past hand tight is plenty tight enough for steel on steel, metal on metal, anything like that. So don't over torque it. You're going to start bending stuff, stripping stuff out, breaking it. Don't hulk out on it. So now we are going to take the synthetic stock, line it back up, drop it right back down into place. And you want to cut those shims thin, to show you, thinner than that trigger group. See how they don't stick out? A friend of mine, we were doing this together, and his were sticking out a little bit, and it kept this synthetic stock from sitting down nice and tight. And you could tell that by the unevenness in here. It was worse. In the back, it was pretty much like this. So there's all that travel that needed to go back down. So now all you do, put your bolts back in. Take your trusty Allen wrench, get your number 4 out, tighten her back up. Hopefully this part I can do. Probably not. Just get it snug so we can get this one down. Snug and kill it, quarter turn, get it, quarter turn, and that should be it. Flip it back over. I flipped it over the wrong way. Alright, now slide your bolt back up, lock it down. Of course it's empty, we just did it. Pull the trigger and voila, it's extremely light. I wish I had some kind of measurement device. I mean, it's just touch it. You breathe at it and it'll go. Some people have gotten the idea to use something bigger than the 25 thou shim in here to shim it out even more, which you can do, but at that point people were having trouble when they dropped the firearm hard against something, bumped it, anything, they were walking through the woods or something and it went off because not enough of the sear is engaging the bolt. So stick to the 25, it's plenty. This is what I was talking about, the safety is not so bad once you get it all back together and you have a full hand working with it. So that's pretty much it. It's extremely light. That shim, it doesn't really wobble. It's a little bit, but before it would wiggle quite a bit. It had a lot of travel in it. So now it doesn't. So, oh yeah, about the whole 25 thou shim thing, the 30 thou. I use 25, some people use 23, whatever you have, whatever you can get. I mean, 25 will be the best if you can get it, whatever. But I have literally taken this rifle, held it like waist high, and dropped it down in my garage on the concrete, and I could not get it to go off. So do this at your own risk, but I was not able to emulate a misfire, an accidental fire, an AD, accidental discharge of any kind. But that's up to you to decide and you to suggest. So check it out, little cheap gun from Walmart, putting a lot of time and effort into it because I like shooting, I like doing my own things, and it seems that you guys like to watch do-it-yourselves and how-tos, so figured I'd help you out. Thanks for watching.